Good morning and welcome. It's a brand new week here and a brand new month. So I guess it's safe to say Happy New Month and welcome to the month of September, the Umba months. We have a few months now to the end of the year. We're quickly or quietly winding down. And September is a reminder that you have October, November, December. So it's literally like we're entering into the last quarter of the year. We're hoping that everyone can start to revisit the goals and the plans for the year. As it might look like there isn't time, but there is still some time to be able to achieve all the things that you set out for 2025. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. I am Olive, MOD.
And I'm Johansson. Well, down with a little cold, by the way. I think it's quite unusual. It's in the air. Everyone is, struggling.
You see, people should stay far away from me, I beg.
I
beg. I beg. I don't want. I beg.
Everyone's sniffing, everyone's coughing. I think it's in the air, actually. But it feels good to be here. Apparently, Gbenga is on a 1-week leave. Let's see if we can pull him back and see if he can come back. Because you do have instances where, like in sports, in football, currently what's happening to Chelsea, where a player has been told to go go to another club on loan, and then they find out that their own striker is injured, so they're calling the player to come back.
Yeah,
like saying, I beg, come
back. So this is Joe's way of publicly telling Gbenga that they're going to call you to beg you, to loan you whilst you're on leave.
To loan
How was your weekend?
Come back. It was okay. I think the weekend was a bit, I'd say, very fast. I think we have longer days and shorter nights now. The nights are very short, very quick. Before you blink one or two, I mean, the alarm clock is ringing already, telling you to wake up. So that's what I noticed. But then again, the weekend, let's say it was adventurous, not really, but it was okay. It was all right. How was yours, though?
It was it was more quiet than usual because I, interestingly, felt like I tore my muscles at the gym on Thursday. So I think what they called it is a delayed onset of muscle strain or something like that. So as at Saturday, I could barely move my arms. But I mean, I'm holding my mug today. So that's great news. I didn't think I'll be able to do that today. So yes, that's wonderful news. But the weekend was a very dark weekend. A dark weekend because it felt like all we had all through the weekend was bad news. Bad news because of several reasons. Yesterday, unfortunately, Big Brother, Nigerian reality TV star's sister, we're talking of Fina's sister, that's Miss Ruth Otabo, unfortunately passed. We've been following this story and bringing you up to speed regarding this story. She was unfortunately hit by a Dangote truck, and her sister raised alarm about this on social media. And, after this, several bloggers and social commentators began to weigh in on the issue. Initially, Dangote released a statement, which we criticized, saying it lacked empathy. Eventually, they got into a meeting. I mean, this was the first press release and the statement that they released, and we thought this was very brief, lacking in empathy.
This was
and it didn't show.
This
was the one. This was the one. Yes, this was the one they released yesterday. So apparently, what the latest was that they had agreed and come to a conclusion that they were going to fly her to India, and they were waiting for a fit to fly clearance from her doctors. But unfortunately, her life has been lost. What this highlights again is how individuals, organizations, and institutions need to take accountability for the kind of people that they employ. Her death and her accident, unfortunately, brought about several people sharing their stories of being attacked, or knowing someone who was being killed by a Dangote truck. And it just, again, reminds us that if you're employing people, you must employ people who they're working for you. It's the reputation of your company. So you must ensure that you do your due diligence. Do these people have driver's licenses? Do they know how to drive? Again, what are the state of our roads? Are roads fit to be driven on? Are these roads good? Do they have potholes? Do they need to be properly looked into? And finally, I want to say a big shame. Shame to the content creators who used this story to trend. There were people who made nonsense out of this story. It's terrible. People who tried to deviate attention from the core issue. The core issue here was that a young woman, unfortunately, had lost her leg, had got into an accident that could have been avoided, but got into this accident by a truck. that initially it looked like they were trying to escape, but they found the person. This young lady requires medical attention, unfortunately, because she's passed medical attention. But there were people who were trying to make it about her having kids, people who were trying to make it about the request of her sister. Shame on everyone who was involved in trending, in using this woman's life to trend. Shame on you all. I hope that we can do better as a society, especially the social media commentators, that they can do better. If you do not have anything positive, if you do not, and this is not to say that you shouldn't speak up about issues. It's important that we all lend our voices, because it's in speaking about this issue that it gained the traction that it gained. But the moment they started rewriting the narrative, that was such a terrible time.
I think it's a sad one. When I saw the story yesterday, I was like, oh, this is pretty sad, because one thing also was obvious. There was a long delay in making the decision as regards
Imagine that they had flown her immediately.
So, exactly. If they had flown her immediately out, maybe our chances of survival would have been, higher compared to what happened eventually. Another thing I noticed again is the press release from Dangote. I don't know if we can put it on the screen there. In that press release, they had made mention of some things that they had done. Let's see if we can get that press release on the screen there from Dangote, especially.
Are you talking about the initial press release?
No, the
final one.
Yesterday.
Okay, that's the one that our producers just
where
showed.
they put it out there, and in that press release, they had mentioned that as a company, they care about accountability and so on and so forth. And one would ordinarily wonder when I saw that press release, and I said, if there was a care for accountability, then the driver who was driving that truck wouldn't have been driving without a driver's license, because it was eventually information emerged that the driver had no driver's license. He was not certified to even drive the truck. This was accordingly mentioned by those who were on ground, who had fact-checked and followed through. But then again, there were also mentions of recurring instances where the same truck has killed or has maimed persons who ply that route or that road. And you keep wondering, why is it happening one too many times? Unfortunately, Dangote himself, who happens to be the owner and the richest black man in Africa, will have his name now being tainted with different colors, because obviously that company belongs to him. But many Nigerians don't want to look at the fact that, oh no, he's just the owner of the company. There are people who work for him. So this goes to show that there's a lot to be done. A lot in the sense that aside from ensuring that you own a company, you have to go deep down to look at these instances or these tragedies that have occurred under your company and then try to solve them. I'm waiting to see what they will do concerning the death of Fina's sister.
Ms. Rutotabo.
Obviously, there's no amount of money.
No amount of money.
Life back. It's a tragedy that has happened. I'm hoping, I'm still waiting to see what they will do. Like I did mention about the press release, a lot of our producers are there.
Can our producers please put back the press release?
So we can see the press release there from Dangote. And I don't know, it says, just like you see there, it says, we're deeply saddened by the passing of Ruth Atabo, who was injured in the recent road incident involving one of our trucks in Auchi, Edo State. On behalf of the entire Dangote Group, we extend our heartfelt condolences to her family, friends, and loved ones at this difficult time. I'd like to take the final part. It says that Dangote Group safety, accountability, and compassion remain at the core of our operations. We remain committed to strengthening our safety systems and supporting those affected in moments of tragedy. May God grant her mercy and eternal rest. So I'm just using this medium to also highlight to Dangote that those three very important action words you put there, safety, accountability, and compassion, which many Nigerians felt was missing in the first press release, should actually be looked into. And then the person who perpetrated this act, of course, we do know as a company, you try as much as possible to shield, but there needs to be some form of accountability for this action. Very
Absolutely.
sad.
There certainly needs to be some form of accountability, but our thoughts and our prayers are with the family of Miss Ruth Otabo. We hope that they can find some solace, that they can hold on to the memories that she had whilst they were alive, and that these memories can hold their hearts in this moment of grief. The whole of the country sends our condolences and mourns with you in this moment. And her death must not be in vain. And the way that we can ensure her death is not in vain is that we do not have repeat incidences like this one. But that's not the only sad story that happened over the course of the weekend. There were reports of multiple cases of maternal mortality. Now, a young woman in Abuja, a content creator, Joy Carl, made a video of a pregnant woman. A number of us saw the video. This pregnant woman, we saw how she, was walking, and Joy offered to give her a ride, and asked her why she was walking, and she said that her hospital had asked her to bring 28,000 naira. She wanted to take a cab, and Joy wanted to pay for the cab, and the woman said, "No, please don't pay for the cab for me. Instead, give me the money so I can add it to the money I'm trying to raise." So the content creator asked her, "How much are you trying to raise?" And the woman said, 28,000 naira. She offered to add the 28, to complete the 28,000 naira. She said that's not just all, that she was also asked to get a letter of reference. So she went back to the hospital, got a letter of reference, got the money, went back to the hospital. By the time they did the registration, they said no bed space. So basically, they did a bit of moving, and by the time they got to the third hospital, unfortunately, the twin babies died. But that's not all. There was another video over the course of the weekend about a young woman in Okpa. Her sister, Amos Ndifreke, released the video sharing about how this... So, yes, this video you're seeing here is the Abuja video where this young woman... So before I go into the Okpa story, let's take a look at this video.
Mama, good morning, ma. Yes, ma, how you doing? You look like you're really tired. Which side are you going to? You want to cross? Can you take a cab? I'll pay for it, don't worry. Please, let me get you a cab, please. You look so tired. You look like you're about to... Please.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Madam.
Okay. How much did they ask you to go and look for? They said you should go and bring 28,000 for them to admit you, right? Can we go there? Can we go back to the hospital?
Yeah, we can go back.
Okay.
They say it's on Friday that will come.
Okay, that you should come back on Friday.
Yes. That is when they intend to do it. But they asked you to go and collect later,
So all they ask you for is 24,000 naira. 28,000.
But they asked you to go and collect later first.
To go and collect letter where?
From Cafe Exit.
So that's where you are going to. Okay.
That is the place I registered before.
Okay.
So this is my information. They say they cannot get. They say I go to my grandma or I come to.
Okay, can I take you there to where you want to go and get the letter? Then I'll still give you the 28,000 naira they ask you to bring. Okay? All right. Amen. Please don't cry, please. Please don't cry. Is this the clinic?
Yes.
Are you okay? Should I hold you? I should give it to you. Did you say she's in labor now?
She's in labor like this. I don't want here.
Talk to me. No, no. You've not gotten anything for the baby. It's okay. It's okay. The things that you want to get, it's something we can get around here. Do you have somebody at home that we can call to bring your
I only
things?
have a sister in the freeway. Maybe she can come around.
Please, call her. Where's your phone? It's okay. Everything will be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry. God loves you. God is with you. Where's your husband?
He's at home. He's strong.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, Mama, I can't calculate on everything, yes.
This space. Papa, where do you say we get it? We don't have.
Don't go better. Amen. Sorry.
That is such a painful video that unfortunately is not it's not something that is rare. It's not a rare occurrence. It's actually something that happens more often than we report in the media. But let's move away from this very sad incident in Abuja to another one that happened in Akwa Ibom, where a young woman by the name Indifreka Amos posted a video accusing medical officers of negligence regarding her sister's death. Says her sister and the baby passed as a result of medical negligence, and she blames the Okpa General Hospital in Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at this video.
God, oh! Doctor was not on seat, oh! Doctor was not on duty, oh! This is an act of negligence, oh! Doctor was not on seat, oh! My sister was bleeding. She was due for CS. There was no doctor to operate her. She is dead, oh! Governor! Why no? Who forgive us for getting up in the way young ago? Doctor, you would go. Woman, I did better yo. Don't funky you forgive us. If my doctor didn't have to doctor, if I had been in the gas, yes. Pastor, why no? So forgive us for getting provide the way young ago. And I come here, Doctor Ibarra, we open get theater. I didn't get here was additional 3 hours. The operator after the CS now the baby died. 2 minutes later, when the baby died, the doctor and enemy on standby after this 3 times. In case the emergency man arrives, overlook me because I am not a doctor, because I am not a nurse. My enemy even on standby. Nobody wants to hear me. At that 10 minutes, they now look for another pile of blood. They did not see it in the whole of this hospital. The doctors neglected my sister and she died. Oh, doctors of General Hospital, no doctor was on sick to operate her as at when due. She wasted.
These are such harrowing experiences, again, that are not exclusive to these women whose videos we have just seen. This is unfortunately the reality of a number of Nigerian women. Nigeria accounts for 12% of the global maternal mortality rate, with about 82,000 women dying every year as a result of pregnancy and pregnancy-related issues. Now, the lifetime risk for a woman in Nigeria is 1 to, I think, yes, 1 in 22, yes, it's 1 in 22 Nigerian women. So compare 1 in 22 Nigerian women who are at risk of losing their lives due to pregnancy and pregnancy-related complications, as opposed to what we have in developed countries. 1 in 4,900 women. It's such a huge gap. We have such a long way to go. And there are many factors. Look at this video in Akwa Ibom now. She talked about her sister needing cesarean section. and no doctor being on ground. The World Health Organization prescribes one doctor to about 500 patients, 600. That's not the reality here. Here, what we have is one doctor to about 5,000, 6,000 patients. That is the reality of what we have. And if, in fact, some would argue that those numbers are not even a true reflection of what our current reality is. In a country where every other day the doctors are going on strike because the government has not been able to meet the needs of the doctors. In a country where every other day we're seeing a mass exodus of doctors to greener pastures because they do not have the resources that they need to be able to do their work effectively. And also they do not have, you know, they don't feel like their work is being adequately remunerated. This is the reality. Women will unfortunately die and continue to die from situations that could have been avoided. There's preeclampsia, there's the, you know, the unavailability of doctors, and some of them it's even postpartum. It's not even before the child has come. How do we reduce these numbers if we don't start to fix the healthcare challenges, if we don't realize that, you know, there's a medical emergency and that we have to, you know, ensure that we declare a state of emergency in our healthcare? It's a really sad development.
It's a sad development. I mean, if you watch that video, the lady was simply saying that they were there 3 hours earlier. That 3 hours earlier, the sister was due. They came a day before. And aside that, they were there 3 hours earlier. Aside that, because of everything, she had also gone to get pint of blood. I think 3, just to get it ready and set, just in case anything happens. That there was no doctor on ground. There was nobody on ground. And everyone just simply just ignored and just sat as if nothing happened. And that's why she started screaming and shouting and saying they killed her sister. This is as a result of her feeling that there was no emergency or no proactiveness from their own end. It was just a case of, you know, business as usual. And then who was supposed to be on ground to assist and ensure that the operation and everything goes smoothly was not there. And that's why she's screaming. Olive, I think you've highlighted the key reasons. And this breaks my heart because at the end of the day, when you look at everything that's going on, you ask yourself, the doctors are currently given the ultimatum of going on strike, even though they said the federal government has sat and met with them. But why must we wait to get to that level? So there are a few questions. One, why must we wait to get to the level where the doctors will tell you that they will go on strike? 2, why are we focusing on fixing roads or building new roads and abandoning the existing ones with huge sum of monies when the critical condition that we find our healthcare system or educational system is in a complete comatose, which should actually be the focal point? We're not focusing on that. Why is it that people no longer have access to just healthcare, basic? Look at the first video we watched, lady in Abuja. While watching that video, a lot was coming to my mind. That woman should not be walking in the hot sun, for goodness sakes. She should be in a place relaxed and ready to be in good health. You could tell from her skin and her look that she doesn't look like she ate well or she's well relaxed. It just did not show that. And all of these things are the things that we're talking about. But then again, the Commissioner of Health we hear actually put out a tweet. Let's get to see what that tweet is very quickly. There it is. It says the attention of the Okpa Ibom State government has been drawn to a video currently circulating on social media concerning the unfortunate death of a young mother and a newborn following a cesarean birth at the General Hospital in Okpa. His Excellency Pastor Onuorah, PhD, deeply sympathizes with the bereaved family and has directed the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Dr. Ejike Emmanuel John, to immediately set up a high-powered commission of inquiry comprising medical and legal experts to establish the circumstances surrounding the tragic incident and recommend measures to prevent future occurrences. In line with the directive, the Honorable Commissioner, Dr. Ejike Emmanuel John, led a team from the Ministry of Health to the hospital at 12:10 a.m., he says, for an on-the-spot preliminary inquiry and to obtain first-hand accounts from relevant stakeholders. The government of His Excellency, Pastor Onuorah, PhD, remains deeply committed to safeguarding the lives of mothers and children and has earlier declared a statewide fight against maternal mortality as a core priority of his administration. Over the past months, the governor has consistently demonstrated his commitment through sustained investment in healthcare infrastructure, recruitment of skilled personnel, and strengthening of emergency response systems. The Ministry of Health assures the public that the outcome of this review will be handled with full transparency and that any verified cases of negligence will attract appropriate sanctions in line with the civil service and professional regulation. We appeal for calm and understanding from the public as the government works diligently to uncover the facts and take decisive steps to further strengthen maternal and child health in Akwa Ibom State. The health and safety of every Akwa Ibomite remain the utmost priority of this administration. Signed, Dr. Ejike Emmanuel John, Honorable Commissioner for Health, Akwa Ibom State. Very, very, I would say, yeah, a good message put out there, but the life is gone again. And that's what we keep saying. It's gone. You can't bring her back. But I like the fact that we can prevent it from happening again. But the question is, will we prevent it? And I think it's also high time for subnationals to actually take the bull by the horn. If we keep waiting for the federal government to establish hospitals, ensure that they are well fitted, they're kitted, they're ready for medical emergencies and so on, I think that's where the failure starts from. And I think it's high time everyone is held responsible in the sense that the subnationals, the state governors, the local governments, they should start ensuring that they fix their own medical care facilities. And if you fix them, in no way, in no time, you will not be dependent on the federal government. While you have yours fixed, then of course things will happen. In Lagos State, for instance, we do see that they have a lot of medical health services being provided for those who are pregnant. You can get free this, free that, and check up as long as you get the card. They've ensured that they slash the price, subsidize the rates, and so on and so forth. But then again, that's just one state, which is Lagos State. However, there's also the issue of the exodus, mass exodus of doctors who are leaving in droves, leaving the countries, and they're still telling you that you're not paying them well. And then you now have a case to deal with where the federal government now comes out through the office of the RAMFAC saying that they have to review the salaries of the lawmakers. For goodness gracious, do we have a bone of compassion inside us, even though we have been elected into offices? Because if you have a bone of compassion, if you watch this video today, as a leader, whoever you are, you should sit back and note that at the end of the day, you too, when you go, you will be buried in the same place. After all, I mean, our condolences also go out to the former IGP of police who also died this past weekend. There's a lot happening in the country, a lot. And we're not saying that it's the fault of anybody, but we're just saying that these things can be curbed if proper actions are taken. And for the medical sector, we're really in trouble if we don't step up. Well, let's take a look at some of the reactions quickly. Let's see what Nigerians are saying about these cases.
Vera Cruzo says, if you've never experienced such a loss, you might not understand. Today, my sister passed away due to medical negligence. I was devastated. I was beside myself with grief, and in my anguish, I made a desperate plea to God. If he could bring her back, I would dedicate my life to serving him. Though that miracle didn't occur, the pain of losing someone so dear still lingers. Losing a loved one can make everything else seem insignificant. It's well. That's from Vera. Nigeria was never ready for independence. Even after independence, power shouldn't have gotten to the hands of some people. Every day in Nigeria is a struggle for survival. That's what she says. And then we have been following my sisters to the hospital during their delivery time. After my witness from my elder sister during her delivery time, we rushed her to the hospital. She was uncomfortable. We got to the hospital like 5 female doctors. None attended to my sister. They were discussing, Omo, my madness fallout. I give them, everybody wake up that midnight, them call security. I chase the security man. Now once them attend to my sister. May every pregnant woman deliver safely and healthy. Amen. That's from Okito Nasamba. Udeme Okono says, this is a really sad incident. I'm hopeful that the inquiry committee set up by the government to investigate this matter will be fair, truthful, and truly independent so that we can put an end to these avoidable deaths in our healthcare facilities. And I mean, all of these just point to the fact that everyone is sad to hear about these stories. We are a far cry. If we look at our healthcare and how much we allocate in terms of budgetary allocation to our healthcare, we're a far cry from the Abuja Declaration. In 2001, how many years ago, these African governments had pledged to devote 15% of their annual budgets to healthcare, to improve the quality of healthcare. It just feels like, you know, we're really a far cry from it, and I don't know if we would ever get to that point where we can boldly say we've been able to make these allocations based on, you know, the recommendation, even by the World Health Organization. So we have a long way to go with our healthcare in general, and unfortunately, we can see the people who are taking the fall for it. And poverty. Poverty is also a core cause.
It is. Do you know that as we speak now, anybody who falls ill today, this moment, if you go to the hospital, you will spend nothing less than at least, let's say you go to a government-owned hospital and all that, just prepare your 50,000 naira.
50,000 naira is nice now.
Now, if you go to a private hospital, I had to rush someone to a private hospital at the wee hours of the night, and nothing at all, 300,000 was gone. So the question now rises. So it means if you are poor, there's no health care for you. Despite the fact that they will tell you it's subsidized. If you go to the government-owned hospitals, you are even, it's there, don't get me wrong, but you are in trouble because the queue, the waiting, if there's an emergency, your survival chances are very slim. And then again, I think this is a wake-up call to all those who are really still battling to pay doctors and nurses well and trying to ensure that they stay back in the hospital. This is it. This is the call.
Well, it is really a wake-up call, and it is a sad time. Again, we'll continue to advocate for better quality of healthcare, one that we all can be proud of to leave for our children unborn, one that our Nigerian politicians can be proud of patronizing, so we don't keep seeing the need for them to fly abroad for healthcare.
There's US, there are other countries just
go
fly
check.
because you have the money.
Exactly.
So you can go there.
We can, there are certain key things that Nigerian leaders will do that they don't even need to campaign for election. Fix our power, fix our healthcare problems, fix education, and fix our roads. To be honest, these things you don't even need to campaign. They will see the working, and when they say, you know, the fact speaks for itself, that will be a case where the fact truly speaks for itself. But we'll continue to advocate for better quality of healthcare for Nigerians and a high commitment to the reduction of maternal mortality in alliance with our SDG goals. Let's now share with you what our top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, federal government defense hike in passport cost. We'll be looking at the details of this, joined by an international analyst. CBN orders geo-tagging of PoS terminals. Of course, this is to curb fraud, and we're looking at the aftermath of those local government elections, talking about, you know, the different reactions. And Borno community pleads for PHC. These are our top stories. Even as we review the front pages of the newspapers, join us for all these and more. Welcome back. The Central Bank of Nigeria has issued directives stating that all point of sale, that is the POS terminals, must be geo-tagged by October 2025. It's a move aimed at curbing fraud and tightening oversight in Nigeria's booming digital payment space. Nigeria has over 1.5 million POS agents nationwide. These terminals have become lifelines for cashless transactions, especially in underserved areas. But with growth comes risk. Fraudulent terminals, ghost devices, clone machines have infiltrated the system. Some have been linked to scams and ransom payments. The CBN says geotagging will help trace every transaction to a physical location. But what does geotagging really mean for everyday Nigerians, for small businesses, and for the fintech ecosystem? Is this a leap toward transparency, or is this a surveillance overreach? Joining us for this discussion is economic analyst Stanley Onuorah. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you.
Very good to be here.
So let's start with the basics, geotagging. Geotagging of the POS. In basic terms, in layman terms, what does geotagging mean and why is it necessary?
So geotagging is from something called geofencing. So in geofencing, it's more like creating a perimeter. You know how you have your house. So the typical Nigerian houses, you see that you have your fence and then you have a gate. So it's somewhat doing something like that on the digital space. So when that is done, it creates that this house that is owned by Olive is just located here. You can't move the house. The boundary for this house is just within that space. Anything outside that most likely belongs to somebody else or is another portion that is not within that perimeter. So what that does for you for geofencing is that it has numerous applications in terms of security and then in terms of even things like fleet management. you know, where you have like big companies say you can't leave a particular area, it creates a sort of, say, a boundary for anything that you want to do within the period. So for average Nigerian that's looking at it, they're saying, okay, what is geo-tagging? Are they going to, is it that they want to create a tag on myself? No, it's just to create a tag, a perimeter fence around whichever place that you're serving. And CBN has said it's going to be 10 meters. So away from that, your location, 10 meters away from that place.
It will not work.
You're going to be flagged.
So if, let's say it this way, if, let me find the right.
Somewhere in Ikeja.
Mommy BC is doing POS.
Yes.
And she's in Ikeja bus stop. It simply means that she cannot leave Ikeja bus stop with her POS to go to Okpa. It will stop working.
Yes. So now it's this is in collaboration with the NIBSS, and
NIBS.
the NIBS. Yes. So what they are saying is, if you have created your location at a particular spot, Mommy BC cannot take her terminal and move over there. Now, this is a new directive, and I feel like there will be modalities around it that would come up. But for what we have now, as it said in the 10 meters radius is not something that you can move past. What you're saying is that it's going to be flagged. We don't know if it will stop working. But what we know is that it is going to be flagged. So what that does for you is that if you say you have a transaction that is outside the radius, it can be flagged as this is not the regular transaction that this person normally occurs. So it's easier to say, why is this person having transactions outside this place regularly? Maybe it could be explained. Maybe it could be said to be like other form of business, and maybe, you know, they could create like another location for that business that, you know, is tied to still the same person. It makes more sense. So, but for saying that it might stop working, it can be disabled, because typical geo-tagging, when you geofence a particular spot, you can create a boundary and say that anybody that goes outside that radius, and you can just disable it. But for now, what we know is that it's going to be flagged, and those transactions that are going to be reported, you know, will be reported as a flagged transaction.
Okay, so another question would be if this has been thought through and what the potential implications of this might be. And I ask because remember when the CBN tried to introduce the new Naira notes policy, we asked if it was going to cripple the economy, especially because it had happened in the 1980s. We didn't seem to learn our lessons from that. And the same fears that we had about what will happen when people were sleeping outside of banks in the 1980s when this happened, it repeated itself again. Now Nigeria has two currencies because we've not been able to successfully carry that out. There also, as a result of that, because the CBN, of course, they're trying to go cashless. Yes. And part of the disadvantage of that is that a number of people now have to start depending on POS. POS operators became very famous at that time because people couldn't get cash within the bank. Yes, well, exactly. So people couldn't get cash within the banking halls, even though they'll tell you now, oh, we'll go to the bank and collect money. People still depend on POS operators for money. So the question is, how will this affect us? Is there potential that this might affect us economically and financially, especially those who are largely dependent on these POS operators or POS terminals to be able to get money? Because they'll go back to the banks and they still may not be able to access money. So for
economic stability, I think the association of, I've forgotten their full name, AMB, I've forgotten their full, the guys that handle, the association that handles POS and electronic transfer, they have an association. So they came up with this and came up with like a request to the CBN to make sure that this policy that they have, this directive that we come out with, that is well handled so that they ensure that this sort of thing doesn't occur again. We have over 1.5 million terminals. Now, there are a lot older terminals. If you read the directive from the CBN, it said that the minimum for Android devices is Android 10, I think 10, the version 10. Now, for older terminals, which are mostly, you would find them mostly in supermarkets, and, you know, like, for the guys that have had, like, those older terminals, those ones are, like, a whole different, but for the guys that are giving out cash in terms of, you know, agency banking, that as we know it, a lot of them have newer terminals. And I think this is more directed at them. Because what we have seen in recent time is that we've had cases of things like kidnapping and, you know, robberies and all. And then when you trace back these transactions, and kudos to, you know, the Nigerian security network, as much as we commend them and feel like they have a lot on their hands, when it now goes into things like this, people can tell you that, oh, this person just came to withdraw money from me. I don't know who he is. But if you then have things like this that are well implemented, if I have a transaction that has been flagged away from your location, this tells me, because if you check the reporting, if you check the policy that was reviewed, once you're going to be reporting, you're supposed to be reporting each transaction with the location. So that's a new policy now. So you're going to be reporting your transactions with the location. So that's why it's easier for them to say, this person has moved away from this location consistently, or this is the coordinate that we are saying that a security operative can go and pick up. Download your transaction history and say, we've noticed that this coordinate that we've seen on this location is somewhere around Sambisa Forest, as opposed to you living in Lagos mainland. So it's easier for them to implement those security checks as regards to security. So I think on that front is actually a laudable directive.
Well, if you say so, but then again, there are stories that when it comes to cases of kidnap, oftentimes when ransom is about to be paid, there's a POS machine and so on that they have to swipe the card in the POS machine and then they get the cash XYZ and so on. And could we say that this is the more reason why this is necessitated in terms of it's being put out there for them? Is this the only reason, or is as a result of the fact that there are so many POSs out there, so many, and sadly, because of lack of job, you have our young graduates also jumping into it. So, what's really the basics for this? And personally, you've been doing this online as online banker. You've been teaching Nigerians, telling them, listen, let me explain what this does. I mean, that's your cliche, let me explain, right? So can you explain to us carefully how this would, in other words, impact the POS person herself? We hear that there are charges now, extra charges. Is this something we need to know as well?
So for, like I always say, calm down, let me explain. So for the average Nigerian, I don't think it's just there's a security front on it, but most importantly is for accurate reporting. So you have terminals that are spread across the country. Can you point, as a regulator, so let me ask, if you're going to be I'm looking at the CBN side. So as a regulator, can you tell at every point where each terminal is located? If you do not have something like this, you can't accurately say. So it presents a potential problem and risk to you that, as an operator, that they ask you for 1,000 terminals that are located in this place, and you need to account for them. You can't account for them. So either you need to call the service provider, or you need to reach out to the merchant, or you need to reach out to the guys that are, that are configured. Just a whole lot of that. But you should have an accurate reporting of where your terminals are, the kinds of transactions that they carry out, and how around what location those transactions are carried out. Now, back to your question where you asked if this was just purely, and I think that people are saying, as I say, are they trying to create are they trying to limit the number of people that we know that in the space, so that you need to have like multiple terminals and all? Those are comments, those are backhand comments. Because if you look at the actual data, there are still other ways that people can go around this. If I'm not using my POS, I can still receive money with my wallet. I can still receive money in my account and still dispense from a terminal that's located in still that same spot, if I can confirm it via phone call. But most importantly, I feel like this will help reporting, and then that reporting still comes down to providing adequate security for the framework.
Is there any concern about how this might impact those living within rural areas?
Yes, I feel they are going to be they are the ones that the consideration needs to be put across the most. Because some of them, yes, some of them, if you go to places like in the north, like, you know, I come from the north and then I have a lot to do there. So if you go to places in the north where you have one or two people that service a large community, and they need to move to a very great length for them to access things like this. But that's where I feel, because I just mentioned that, you know, this directive is fresh, and I feel there will be modalities around it. It should state that this is going to be a flag transaction away from the spot. If you then have geotagging, which is a brilliant thing, you have the GPS coordinates, and you're saying, why are you going to XYZ area every Saturday
by 10
a.m.? And you are dispensing nothing less than 200,000, anytime you go there, who are you giving those 100,000 to? So it's easier for you, so you can see from a reporting side, it's easier for you to come out and say, okay, this person is carrying out such transactions in certain locations, and, you know, for whatever reason that is being carried out, you know, you can.
I think it was very important for us to speak about those in rural communities, because unfortunately we're in 2025, but there are a huge number of underserved communities, people who are financially excluded. And if these people that we even convinced and are still convincing to open bank accounts, because some of them rather trust under their bed or inside their piggy box. And now they finally opened up with the few mobile money providers, and now they have limited POS agents that are serving multiple communities. How we can regulate that might be also a cause for concern. But also another cause for concern would be if, I mean, it feels like there's so many measures that have been put in place to ensure that we prevent fraud and we can limit instances like kidnapping and the likes. We've been asked to do registration for NIN, BVN, I can't even count. Every other day we're hearing about one new registration or another. This one feels like another measure. Is this a measure that the CBN can say would act as a standalone, or are there maybe some other supporting measures that need to be put together to ensure that we can actually guarantee, or does this just feel like one of the regular new policies that organizations put forward to make it look like they're working? Do you genuinely believe in this policy?
So for this, I try to shy away from the concern that everyone thinks is just security. I'm looking at it more on the reporting side. So if you're going to have accurate reporting, and, you know, they said they are moving to the ISO 20022, and they are saying we want to have like a standardized reporting format. I'm looking at it from that angle. So if you as an institution want to up your reporting to an international standard that is globally recognized, if you look at it from that angle, yes, it's fantastic. Then the implication then comes out to what other things, if I'm reporting accurately, it takes care of security, like we have mentioned. Like the likes of BVN and all the others that we have, you know, and they say it's to check this and check that. To be fair, it has had its own inputs. Like, it was a typical example that BVN has given us in the past few years was, you know, before now, then people used to go and register corporate accounts and go to banks. And then when they go to banks, they open multiple accounts and run those accounts, and then go and try to take loans on those companies because the legal entity is different. I know they had like a lot of funny things that people were doing behind until BVN came in and automatically stopped some of those things. So it has its own. Can they do better with the information that they have in terms of biometrics that we have and, you know, across the security? Yes, they can. But are these new policies, new directives still going to help strengthen those? Yes, it will.
All right.
Anyway, as we look to wrap up this conversation, I also want us to touch on one of your videos. By the way, if you're watching us, you can check him out on Online Banker. He gives regular updates, especially about the economy and yourself. Banks resume international transactions on Naira cards as dollar supply rises. I tried using my card, you know, Woko. You know what?
So I don't know if you're going to call. So this is very important. Yeah. The banks have come out to say that the cards are going to, you know, that their cards are now working. And we're still having people, but fair to them, I don't know what bank you use, but just 4 banks were the ones that give out this notice to their customers that their cards are going to be. But I have information that one of the banks is still not working, and that they came out to their customers to say. So if they're listening to this, it's a feedback to them, and if they need people to go and take an extra step, they should have made that known. So for example, before now, you needed to activate your card for it to have, for you to have access. But typically, everybody just wants to make payment on, electronic platforms, pay for subscriptions that are less than $2, $5, $10, and people are not able to make them. So, the fintechs are eating the markets in that regard. But we hope that as the dollar supply keeps increasing, all the banks come on board pretty soon.
I mean, we're still battling with that. Our contemporaries are doing swipe to pay, tap to pay. So we have a long way to go.
That is coming.
How soon?
That is coming. It is here already. To be fair, it is here already. So I know of a few platforms that currently have that. Yes. So.
Are you serious? That I can pay with? I can tap my mobile phone
to
pay.
So a lot of your terminals are So I want everybody to, if you're watching, look at your card. You see something somewhat like a wave on your card. Once you see that activated you see that on any terminal, it says that you have the NFS. You can just tap to pay.
So if somebody steals my card now?
No, there's a limit. So there's a limit. There's modality for Nigeria is that once you tap, you still need to put your PIN.
Better.
That's for Nigeria.
Better.
I think that's the.
It's better.
That's for us.
Olive, don't be sure, because if they catch your card, so you tap.
Yeah. So what I feel that they can do much later is that some of those other banks might create a different this thing where they can easily, just a small figure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if that's true, but I did see a video. This time around, I haven't witnessed this. Video of someone who had his card imprinted in his body and had to use his hand to pay. Is that legit technology?
Yes, it is. So in China, you can use your palm to pay.
It was in China, exactly.
Yeah.
He used his palm to pay.
You can use your palm to pay. So yes, it's something that can be done. At the point where we're still at the tap, and you can use...
We have not yet gotten to tap. They are still introducing the tap.
Yeah.
Until we can see even the basic things we've not been able to conquer. So we have a long way to go, but definitely our fintechs are making progress.
Exactly.
Our banks also are coming up, and we have a long way to go when it comes to financial inclusion. But the good thing is that work is being done behind the scenes to ensure that we have financial access available to as many Nigerians as possible. And I think the final question is, how ready are we for a cashless Nigeria?
I think we've been ready for... I think Nigerians are pretty smart people. I say that not because, I'm Nigerian and that I'm trying to promote Nigeria, but I think Nigerians are pretty smart people. If you check on the front of things like cryptocurrencies, the adoption, the way the Nigerians adopted it as compared to even countries in the West tells you a lot about the savviness of the average Nigerian. Aside the people that are in the rural communities that do not have access, but even in the rural communities, when these things get to them, they latch onto them as fast as possible. We can go cashless, but are the infrastructure for us to go cashless, are they trustworthy? Because that's what we had in terms of when we had a cashless policy, and people needed to go on full on terminals as opposed to going to cash, and we saw the breakdown. That gave rise to
the POS operators
that came up, and some of these fintechs that came up with fantastic innovations. Some people are in business today because of that policy. The Naira redesign. Some people are in business. Some two major ones are in business today because of that. So they will everly be grateful for that misfunction. So that disruption created an opportunity that they latched onto, and they have what they have today as a business.
I know we said finally, but this is finally.
Finally.
We really wish we could have you more regularly. I'm also thinking a lot on top of my head, maybe a daily Monday morning economic talk. I mean, with you, because investment.
All right.
Investment. So what are the 3 key places people can invest this month?
That's not this kind of conversation to wrap up.
Where can people just quickly buy 1 or 2 stocks?
So in lots of
Olive, you don't have.
I know.
Do you have 10,000 you're not using? Give me. Let me buy.
Are you talking about naira or dollar?
Naira,
Okay.
dollar, anyone. Give me.
the first thing that you say, you don't give financial advice.
Exactly.
You understand? You don't give financial advice. But I would always tell everyone, look around you, look around the typical things that you use as an everyday person. You know, you make calls, you eat food, you know, you take transport.
I like what you did there.
And
for smart guys, you just give us a small expo.
So you do that on a regular. So it tells you that if you are doing that, 100 million Nigerians are doing the same thing as you, and that would you know have an import into the PBT of that company.
I see.
And you know you can do the rest with the
Then you know what to do.
This is a use your tongue to count your teeth answer. Stanley, Onuorah, thank you for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you. We'll now be moving from talking about money. There was relief and celebration in Musari community of Maiduguri as the Borno state government donated a brand new ambulance to the community. The effort followed a NewsCentral report highlighting the community's struggles, particularly how pregnant women, including the sick and elderly, were often stranded without an emergency transport service. Residents of Musari are now pleading for a primary health center to improve access to healthcare in the community. NewsCentral's Umar completes this report.
A sigh of relief for residents of Musari community as officials of the Borno State Government's Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System provided this new ambulance to the community. This was as a result of NewsCentral's report on community residents' outcry over the lack of access to healthcare and transportation for the sick.
In less than a week, when NewsCentral visited us here, we laid our complaints and they respond immediately by providing an ambulance for us. We are very grateful. We are very grateful to His Excellency Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, and we are very grateful to the Director General, SEMSAS, for reporting our complaint immediately to the Ministry of Health through the Commissioner and the Permanent Secretaries. We are very grateful with NewsCentral. I can say it is one of the best news media so far in Borno State. We haven't seen any media station, any media station has ever visited this area due to its remoteness.
Officials from the state described the action as part of government's commitment to improving access to health services across underserved communities.
Wannan abin da muka ji shi a take a social media dan siya wanda kuma shi gwamnati ne gwamnatin jama'a ne. Kullum wanda na shiga menene matsalan talaka kuma yana da taimaka. To yana ganin wannan ya ce maza ai kokari a dauka ambulance maza a kawo muku aje muku anguwanku. Ya zama duk iyayenmu mata wanda suke da matsala na rashin zuwa asibiti a dauke su a kai su asibiti. Babu wani delay.
According to residents, hundreds of families continue to travel long distances to access basic health services, a challenge that often results in avoidable fatalities.
Inda son samu ne muna da gwamnati da ya nema mana primary health care a kusa da mu yanda mata masu lebo in suka tashi muna samun matsala gaskiya da gaske.
Asibiti babu shi a anguwanmu a kusa, asibiti a nisa yake, kuma tunda ya taimaka mana da ambulance ko primary health care ne muna neman alfarma wajen gwamna ya gina mana wannan asibitin.
They say that a healthcare center will reduce dependency on distant hospitals, improving maternal and child health and strengthening the local health system. In Maiduguri for NewsCentral, Umar Kirawa.
The federal government of Nigeria has defended its decision to hike passport fees to 100,000 naira for a 32-page booklet and 200,000 naira for the 64-page version.
The government says it's a move to curb corruption and ensure timely delivery. But critics call it a citizenship barrier that punishes the poor. So, is this reform or repression? Joining us for this discussion is Global Affairs analyst Ejike Okpa. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning for keeping me awake. It's 2 a.m. in Dallas, but that's okay.
Thank you for always staying awake for us. It's always a pleasure to have you. From 35,000 naira to 100,000 naira in just over a year, there have been reactions to this, largely criticism. So let's get what side of the divide you stand on. Do you think that this is a laudable move by the government, or do you think that this is maybe not sustainable for the average Nigerian, especially amid rising inflation and unemployment?
You know, thank God I don't live in that country. I don't have to react to some of this stuff. But you know, I was in Nigeria last month, and I could see the suffering on the people. So when the government comes up and throw up numbers, you know, what I find sort of amazing, amusing, is this is a way to curb corruption. How do you curb corruption? By, you know, jacking up prices without considering the affordability of the people that you are trying to help. Granted that, you know, having a passport is not a right. You know, if you want it, you go for it. But also at the same time, the government has to be more reasonable and then be able to see what can the people afford to pay. So when you throw up 200,000 and 100,000, you look at the average Nigerian salary, 99% or 90-something% of Nigerians, you don't even have that in their savings account. So who are you trying to impress here, or who are you trying to support? When you say you are trying to curb corruption, how is that curbing corruption? You know, sometimes I take the time when I go to Nigeria, I don't come for vacation. I just want to go to the post office, you know, to government facilities to see how things are getting done. Sometimes I pretend as if I want the passport, and then they give you, you know, they give you 2 account numbers. You say, hey, send this money to me. And I say, is this money going to a public account, or is it going to, you say, you know, they say, oh, guy, if you want this stuff, you know, do as we say. If the government really want to do this, you know, they can set up a place where you said, okay, over time you can pay for that passport, or you go to a particular bank, you pay, you know, you buy a coupon. You buy a coupon, and when you go to the passport office, you present that coupon as proof of payment, and then we can process your passport. But other than that, a lot of people are just pocketing government money. Even in U.S., if you go to the consulate office of Nigeria in Atlanta and New York and Washington, D.C., you're going to be ashamed of what Nigerian public servants do. You know, they pocket the government money. They tell you, hey, pay here, pay there. So I'm talking about the corruption aspect of it. If you really want to fight the corruption, make sure some of these people that are handing off different account numbers for payment are arrested and prosecuted. You know, you hear a lot of this, we're going to stop this, but nobody ever goes to jail for this. Nigerian government under Tinubu, if they are really serious about building confidence in what it is they're trying to do, they have to send some people to jail. And that jail has to serve as a deterrent. I mean, you know, you can do all of that, and those who have criminal minds will still end up doing this. But it's not fair on the Nigerian. At the airport, you see these things they do. When I was in Nigeria in July, you know, you could just watch how custom officers and immigration officers in your face do things that are just shameful about the image Nigeria is trying to craft.
Done, which in terms of payment, you've also related your experience that oftentimes 2 accounts are given, you have to pay here, and then you're told, do you want your passport or you don't want your passport? But there are also concerns about the cost, not just being 100,000 naira. The other concern is how many percentage of Nigerians can afford to pay that amount. Looking at the minimum wage, which is 70,000 naira, and the passport, which is 100,000 naira, how do we put it together and ensure that every single Nigerian can get that passport? Can you help us in comparison to how it's done over where you are in terms of getting your passport and ensuring that you do not have to break the bank?
Well, I mean, you know, again, America is way ahead of, you know, most countries when it comes to something like the passport. If I need a passport in America, I just go to the post office, fill out the form, and then, you know, there's a request to do how soon do I want this passport? Do I want it in a day or do I want it in a month? What is my travel schedule? Once I give that, I get my passport. You know, there are nothing bogus about doing it. It's an affordability thing. So what I'm saying, if you look at the minimum wage in Nigeria, how many Nigerians, like I said in my earlier comment, how many Nigerians have 100,000 naira, 200,000 naira in their savings account or current account that they can afford to easily pay? And when they pay that, they're not even sure that they're paying it to the proper government account. So how do you do this study? How do they come up with, you know, it used to be 30-something thousand, all of a sudden, if it's 100,000, that's more than 100% increase. And then, you know, for the 200,000, that's almost 5 times that amount. So I'm saying that, you know, Nigerians have to be able to go to their senator or go to their House members and complain about this stuff. But again, you know, the senators and the House members or the politicians, you know, they feel immune to the situation that is going on in Nigeria because they're the ones, you know, like I said, they act like pimp. You know what the word pimp means. P-I-M-P is put in my pocket. And that is how the Nigerian government officials operate. You know, it's very shameful, and in 21st century, they do it in your face. So affordability has to be relevant to the people in Nigeria, and that relevance has to address the 92% of Nigerians who cannot afford to pay for a lot of stuff. So don't come in and jacking prices on them at will without considering the impact on their other needs.
All right, let me put a tweet on the screen very quickly, and let's just see a clear explanation of this, and I'd like to ask a question around that. During the responses concerning the increase in the passport fee, you could take a look at the U.S. passport. It said it cost $165 for someone on a minimum wage of $7.25 per hour, and they earn about $1,160 a month if they do only one job, and so on. In the UK, £82.50. It's done online, £100, and so on and so forth. And then Nigeria. Now, you've been a global affairs analyst. You've seen how passports are done in different countries. And looking at it initially, I've asked the question how we can put that vis-a-vis what Nigerians earn on a monthly basis. But can we also look at it in terms of viability, in the sense that the passport is now 100,000 naira, and every single Nigerian is asked to pay that amount? How do you think this will impact on traveling and so on, especially for Nigerians who live outside of Nigeria and are looking to come to Nigeria to renew their passports and then go back? And also Nigerians who just went there to school and they have to come back and then go again. How would this impact on the economic, not forgetting to the impact on these Nigerians?
Well, I mean, you know, that's a mouthful, you know, the questions you ask. You know, comparatively, you have to look at things, you know, in the specific geography. And in this case, I'm saying if a Nigerian is earning 70,000 naira a month, because you got to look at the minimum wage or the middle income, you know, side of things. So if it's 70,000 in a year, that's 184,000 naira, and that is still less than $500 a year. So if a passport, let's say that particular Nigerian wants a passport, so the percentage of what he or she is going to pay for the passports is a huge chunk of the total ability, you know, of their earning. So that's what the government has to. At this stage, it don't even have to go that far. I mean, you could just make it a flat thing, 50,000 naira, or even give them opportunity to pay it over time. But for something like a travel, I mean, somebody has to have the means to be able to travel. You know, the reason I became an American citizen, I didn't want to deal with this Nigerian thing. I didn't want to go and have to deal with people at the embassies or people at the consulate. That's why I elected 30 years ago to become an American citizen. Because if I'm traveling, if my passport is expired, I walk to the post office, within 24 hours, I can have it. And I can pay for it because, again, what they're charging me has nothing to do with my ability to earn. But in the case of Nigeria, like I said, they do this stuff either to discourage people from traveling or for the government staff. Nigerian government is actually not making a whole lot of money from what it is they do. It is the staff members that are pocketing this money. And nobody, not at the embassy level or the consulate level outside of Nigeria, has been indicted or sent to jail. So Nigeria has to be serious about the things they do, especially things that are affecting the average Nigerian. Remember my word here, average. It's not the rich Nigerian, it's not this or that, it's the average Nigerian. The Nigerian you see on the street every day. Can they afford to pay this stuff? And then that affordability has to be based on their ability to earn. And that ability to earn is the minimum wage of 70,000 naira a year, which amounts to 840,000 naira. That's not a whole lot of money because they still have to go home, pay rent, get feeding, support their family, So how much? So when 100,000 naira or 20,000 naira is a chunk of what it is they want to get a passport. Of course, it's a 1-year thing. When you get it, that passport might be a 5-year or 10-year thing. It's still a whole lot. So Nigeria government has to make it flexible and has to make it affordable. And that has to be to help and address the condition of the average Nigerian.
That there should be some form of subsidization of the passports or maybe a differential measure of payment. So maybe we'll say that certain people, maybe low-income earners, even though I don't know how that will be determined, will pay less or students will pay less. And is there any maybe argument, in a sense, to the argument that the government has preferred? They say that this will help curb corruption and improve the quality and the delivery of the Nigerian passports. Do you see maybe any sense to that argument? Can you maybe align with it in some measure?
That's what I'm saying. How is jacking up prices go up to curb corruption? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How is that? If there was like a payment system to where they said, okay, if you need your passport, in 6 months, but you can't afford to pay it over time, one time when you show up at the passport office, here's a payment plan. Okay, 10,000, this, 5,000, this, as long as you pay into us. Once you achieve that number, then you can come in and your passport will, maybe we process it and we hold it until you finish making your payment. There are so many ways you can do it. In America, we don't do that because, again, $120 or $160 for most Americans is no money. And not many Americans actually travel, outside of the country, even within the country. But because of Nigerians' desire to leave because of the conditions in the country, those who want to leave voluntarily, then make it affordable for them. And that affordability has to be in the way you structure the payment and not as opposed to just, say, okay, I'm going to fight corruption, but at the same time, people are pocketing the money. I have evidence. Like I said, some of this I record, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. But I've been to Enugu passport office. I went to Abaliki passport office. I'm doing all of those things to convince myself about the frustration, the Nigerian government, imposes on its own people, even though they are pretending to say, hey, we're going to help out, we're improving our system. A system that is improved is a system that is done with less headache. And then also you have to factor in affordability. Affordability has to be an economic assessment based on the ability to earn and the ability to pay. Most Nigerians don't have 100,000 naira. You look at the statistical number. Most Nigerians don't have it, and if they have it, the question has to be: should I pay for passport, or should I pay for food, or pay for my health care, or pay for my accommodation? So make the payment, stretch it out. I don't know how long. Maybe you could say 3 months if you want. If you know you're going to travel in 3 months or 6 months, and this is what it is come in and pay 5,000 naira. You could go nominate banks in any particular. Go over there, here's the federal government account, pay it, get a receipt, and keep all those receipts. As you are paying it, it's being reported in the passport office that you are doing what? That you have paid. So when you show up, you could just sit down, take a picture, your passport is processed. I can give you an example. One time I came to Nigeria, they said, oh, they have captured me. And all of these things, you just see how the system works. And I had to go there. We don't have the booklet in Lagos. In Eno, we have to go to Abakaliki. How is that possible? How is that something they should say? The passport book should be available in the offices. You don't have to add additional burden on the people. They have to travel across state line to go get the passport. So I don't know how they come up with 100,000. I don't know how they come up with 200,000. I just think that the legislative arm of Nigerians, especially the representatives who are supposed to be in direct contact with their constituents, should engage the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Immigration and say, hey, let's rethink this, or let's come up with another way to make it flexible for Nigerians to get their passport.
All right. I want to ask, what's your take on the fact that the current administration has been in power for 2 years plus and still counting, and yet Nigeria seems not to have ambassadors representing the country in different countries? In other words, even in the United States of America. What's your take on that?
Hey, have you, you see Tinubu. Tinubu goes everywhere. He just was in Japan, and then he was in Brazil. I don't think he has, he's focused on what it is he needs to do in order to delegate authority on his behalf, for the benefit of Nigeria. It makes you wonder if America is a country of interest to Nigeria, how come they don't have an ambassador? Is it because they haven't found a good candidate, or is it because the president through the foreign ministry haven't been able to screen somebody that would take that role? But, it's not a requirement. That means your diplomatic presence in the particular country, you don't have that. Ambassador is just, marginal. So, 2 years, I think Tinubu is more concerned about getting re-elected, but he's not so concerned about what he has done so far to make the Nigerians believe they have to give him another 4 years. Hey, 2 years remaining on his term is an eternity in politics. Maybe he will come out with something that will make Nigerians rally for him and put him back in office. I know, even whether he stays there or not doesn't really bother me. The thing is that I have ties in Nigeria. I'm not tied to Nigeria. When I come to Nigeria, I am saddened by the conditions I see family members and friends and classmates, and said, how should people live? Why should people live like this? Government's supposed to work hard in order to improve the condition of, no government is perfect and stuff. But when you see ministers like, what is his name, Wike, I want to call out his name, driving around in Rolls Royces, and other ministers doing things like they're going to airport. What signal are they trying to send to Nigeria? Really, Rolls Royce is not even a car most wealthy people in America drive. The people that drive those cars are like athletes and entertainers. Wealthy people in America don't show off their cars. They show off what they do by their investment in their community, supporting schools, supporting healthcare, making sure that the policies, are geared towards making, life better for people, not showing off in Rolls Royce. Come on. People should be able to call his ministers to order. So if any one of you embarrasses me with this thing, you're going to be fired. They serve at his pleasure, and he should not condone it. But if he will condone it, if he himself is engaged in things that make other people say, hey, if Oga on top is doing it, why shouldn't I, Oga on the bottom, do it? So, but that is what the message should be. He should call his ministers. He said, this is not a party. Nigerians are suffering. I don't want any one of you out there, attending parties and embarrassing, his administration. But again, it takes a will. It takes a will in a leader to call his errant people to order. And so far, Buhari didn't do it, Obasanjo didn't do it, Jonathan didn't do it. And so now Tinubu is doing it, but maybe Tinubu should be that angel that has an angle for a better Nigeria. But so far, he can't do it if it's all he's doing being Ajala. You guys know the expression, Ajala travel all over the world. And what has that got to do with anything? Stay at home, work with Nigerians, have your ambassadors, have your staff members do the job on your behalf. When it's very, very necessary, you show up. But a king doesn't show up at every party. A king has to manage their appearance in such a way, he becomes scarce. Scarcity creates value. That's a simple economic model. But in the case of Tinubu, he wants to be everywhere. I mean, how many times has he been out of the country since he's been in office? You go count it. So, that's part of the diplomacy. But then what is Nigeria getting out of it?
All right.
Seriously, what is Nigeria getting out of it?
Mr. Ejike Okpa, it's a pleasure to have you. Very key questions you've asked there. And even as we've had this deep and necessary conversation about the increment of passport, it brings to mind again how we should prioritize as well the progress of our passport in international ratings. We're currently rating 88 on the Haley Passport Index, which looks like progress on the surface, but we still have access to 45 countries, either visa-free or visa on arrival. And, we are in Africa, we are only ahead of 6 countries: Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Eritrea. I mean, see the countries that we are literally ahead of. So we have a long way to go beyond focusing on price, but focusing on the quality and the power, influence, and access that our passport can grant us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you guys for always bringing the critical things. What the media is supposed to do is not to appease, is to provoke. If you don't provoke leadership, you are not making them sleepless. But if you are there praising them, I think Nigerian journalists have to have the ball, have to have the desire to say it the way it is. It's factual, it's not about opinion. Opinions are what Nigerians are always using. Talk about the facts. The facts just today is the most populous black nation in the world is seen as a nuisance. When I met Martin Luther King's wife, in 1999 at the reception for Obasanjo, you know what she said to me? If Nigeria were to be the symbol for the black race, that the black race is doomed. So 26 years after that statement, 26 years after democracy, ask yourself, where is Nigeria? If you had 1 million naira in 1999, you had almost $12,000. 26 years after the fact, 1 million naira is $600 and something. Anybody who's jumping up and down and beating their chest about Nigeria and doing well, obviously must have their head examined. That is what the measure is. It's not about the Rolls Royces, it's not about the big mansions, it's about what are the civil servants being paid, and they're able to support their family based on what they're getting paid. Thank you guys for always having me. I will be at work for you as long as we're going to be provoking some people and making them restless. Thank you.
Thank you for your time with us. I wish you a wonderful rest of the night. And here on Breakfast Central, we're going to break, and when we come back, we have other conversations to bring. This time, we'll be heading to River State to bring you the updates from the local government elections. Stay with us.
So over the weekend here on Breakfast Central, we talked about it just on Friday, and then Saturday, the entire team of NewsCentral ensured that we gave you a 360 coverage of the River State LG elections. But let's also tell you very quickly that we do have our correspondent who's joining us live. The results announced by the River State Independent Electoral Commission, RISIC Chairman Michael Ude, gave APC candidates a total of 1,426,871 votes across the 20 councils, while PDP secured 614,928 votes in the 3 LGAs, Obiakpo, Oba, Egbema, Ndoni, and Port Harcourt. But let's go straight to our correspondent who is there live to witness how they will be presented a certificate of return, of course, to the local council chairman as well. Biola Festus joins us. Good morning, Biola.
Good morning, Johansson and Olive.
All right.
We are still holding it down right here at the RISIC headquarters to bring you updates on the conduct of the local government elections in River State. Now, yesterday, declaration of candidates were announced. Those who won were declared by the chairman of RISIC. And today they are setting up to present certificates of return to those that won. So a few minutes away from now, we might just see the officials walking in here. The chairmen are already seated, 23 local government chairmen, and their, of course, deputies and the councillors for the over 300 wards are already seated here as well. So any moment from now, they should be receiving their certificates of return as chairman elect. And so you may want to say that democracy is gradually being restored to River State. Don't forget that across the 23 LGAs, we have appointees who are administering those LGAs. They were appointed by the sole administrator, Ibokete Ibas himself. So with this concluded election and with the issuance of certificates of return, and of course their subsequent swearing in, the local government councils in River State would be welcoming democracy. So they would have moved from emergency rule. What is now left would be the state itself. I mean, the position of the governor to be restored. And the countdown has already begun. From today to the end of the 6 months emergency rule, we should be counting 17 days. Johansson?
Just to also ask, you say that democracy is about to be restored in River State. Do the citizens feel that way?
At the local government level.
At the local government level, right? But do the citizens, what is the sense that you get? Is there euphoria? Is there excitement? Or is there maybe a resentment or a restlessness that you sense from the citizens in River State? Would you say that there's a general satisfaction from the citizens that they see the elections that were governor, is not available, is not on seat because he had been suspended by the federal government. So there's so many issues that really arise as a result of the Rivers election. But you can see the Minister of the FCT.
So many issues there, Olive. In short, this is the first local government elections that will be held in Nigeria without the presence of a democratically elected governor of a state, and I stand to be corrected. But then again, we have a lot to look into. Let's see if we can reach out to our guest again, Dr. Ijoma Tubusia, Secretary, Nigerian Union of Journalists, River State Council. They were very involved in covering the entire process. Good morning, madam. Can you hear us?
All right. I can hear you.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Please go ahead. I had asked, you have been very involved in the process of the local government elections in River State. How would you say citizens have reacted to this? Would you say that there's a general sense of satisfaction or dissatisfaction?
I would say there's general dissatisfaction from people because the local government election that was conducted on Saturday saw a total almost near boycott by voters. If you move around Port Harcourt metropolis and that didn't come out to vote, they feel that they felt so indifferent. And the mass apathy is really a thing of concern. Officers were just sitting idle, and because people didn't come out to vote, and speaking from the point of view of a journalist who monitored the election, in most areas in Port Harcourt local government area, people didn't come out to vote. When you speak to one or two of them, they will tell you that some of them were so ignorant that they said it is only one party that is contesting the election. So there was no need for them to come out to vote. They should do whatever they want to do. Some residents were busy playing football. If you move around the areas like a popular Agri Road and Lagos bus stop, you see them, instead of queuing to vote, they are busy playing around. And some other areas were so silent, people remained in their houses because as far as they are concerned, it is not really their business.
Doctor, the videos that emerged that showed a view personnel of the during the elections thumbprinting themselves, and then we also heard that there were ballot snatchers who snatched the ballots and ran with it, even at the presence of the police. Can you confirm to us what NUJ witnessed during these elections, or this election in particular?
Concerning that, I think the area was actually peaceful because, like I said earlier, people didn't really bother to come out to vote. So it became peaceful, and we didn't, the few places I went to and some other, I didn't actually get reports of ballot box snatching or violence. It was kind of entirely peaceful. Reason being that people didn't really care. That's the truth.
Okay. I'd like us to also look at the mention of the return of the duly elected governor of the state, Governor Sim Fubara. The FCT minister did say that he's likely to return very soon, now that the local government elections were done or have been done and dusted. Can you share with us what the feel is like, especially for members of the River State political party belonging to the PDP and the APC, if you were able to interact with them, or generally the people of River State? How did they feel when they heard that statement made by the FCT minister that the government will be returning soon?
People are kind of excited because people believe that it's actually long overdue. Since the removal or suspension of the governor, the citizens have not been happy, and we are hearing now that in the near future, in the near weeks, few weeks to come, that the governor will return. Of course, you know that there's a massive love for the governor. So because of that, people are actually expecting and excited if it will actually come to pass.
Right, and also those who have started the conversation about structure in River State. and if it would seem with the sweeping influence of a certain party in the elections, if it would seem that the structure has been returned to the former governor, as that was an issue that we kept hearing about during the disagreements between the former governor and the current governor. So do you think that the issue about structure has been finally settled in Rivers State?
Yeah, I would say it has been settled because actually I think that was what started the problem in the first instance. And the election presently conducted, the local government election presently conducted was intended to replace the administrators that were appointed in April following the February 28th Supreme Court ruling that nullified the October 2024 local government election. That's the election that was held last year. After that election, the FCT minister felt that his structure has been taken away from him. But now the return of his the result of this local government election that was conducted on Saturday goes to show that the structure has been returned to him, and you can see the excitement in him. And that is why I said that River citizens were like, let's just allow for peace to reign. Everybody is calling for peace, and if this is what is going to bring peace, people are like, yes, let us allow it go. Let him have his way for peace to reign in River State. What we need is peace.
What was the security situation like during the elections?
There was no crisis. There was no violence. There was no snatching of ballot boxes. We didn't get such reports. So everywhere was actually peaceful. You know what causes violence and snatching of ballot then in other elections? Because various political parties participated. But in this particular election, it's as if the indifference is just obvious. So it's like it was just a one-party thing. So what's the essence of snatching ballot box? What's the essence of violence when everybody that is participating is like from one side?
All right. I'm sure we'll look forward to joining our correspondent who's there live for the certificate of return presentation they're holding in River State. I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Tubasia, for joining us, and we look forward to speak with you again. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's tell you that the managing director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Okpa, has apologized to journalists for verbally assaulting staff of the Nigerian Television Authority, Ladi Bala, during coverage of a recent train derailment along the Abuja-Kaduna corridor. At a press conference in Abuja, Okpa admitted his comments were regrettable and made under pressure while managing the crisis, pledging to rebuild trust with the media. In a symbolic gesture, he named Bala as ambassador for the media advocacy, commending her professionalism and resilience in the face of the incident. The NUJ FCT Council welcomed the apology, describing it as a step toward protecting press freedom and rebuilding confidence between the NRC and journalists. Officials also used the event to highlight NRC's emergency response during the derailment, ongoing rail expansion, and plans for stronger collaboration with the media in advancing transparency and public trust.
In my attempt to ensure